Thank you very much. Theresa, I'd like to go back to first principles on this, the underlying assumptions on which this approach is based. First of all, you're suggesting that this is based on council priorities. Do you believe that it's the city's job to manage the development process or to promote development?
I believe it's our responsibility to implement the council's goals and objectives. And one of our most powerful ways of doing that is through the zoning process.
Okay, well, I think the public trust will be really tested by this approach. I think if people knew that we were saying that we're going to put aside the policies of the city in the interest of expediting development, that there might be some shock. Um, so the idea here is that the report and its recommendations will allow staff to set aside historical policy in the interest of fast tracking development. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't characterize it that way. I would characterize it more of an ability to facilitate projects or proposals that are intended to meet the council's goals that are now being impeded by perhaps outdated or conflicting policy.
Okay, so why circumvent policy and fast track development? You say that's not what we're doing. It's actually the council priorities that are justifying this. Why the rush?
Uh, this process is responsive to two council motions, one in February and one in March. And I don't believe it's been rushed. I think we've done our due diligence and vetted this thoroughly. We've talked with members of the development community, and we, of course, want to be as responsive to council as we possibly could be.
You don't think this is rushed during a pandemic?
No,
And
ma'am, I
you've
do
been
not.
here for how long?
Just over 2 years.
Hmm. The rationale appears to be there's a shortage of housing and a deficit in housing production. On what evidence is this based?
Well, I believe that you are referring to the Vancouver housing strategy, and that is certainly one document that underlies this work.
Well, that talks about housing targets which are aspirational. And as you well know, we've been pressing it was a year ago at the end of July that we were expecting to have detailed housing data across a spectrum, including secondary rental markets, the impact of short-term rental and international students, existing zone capacity, and the existing pipeline of development, which is considerable in order to be able to have a more complete understanding of where we sit in terms of our housing demand in the city. Can you give an update on when we can expect to see this data?
I know that that work is currently underway with Dan and his group. I don't have an estimate on when that might be coming forward to council, but Susan or Dan, if you'd like to hop in and give us a time frame, that'd be appreciated.
Sure, it's Susan Hay, Deputy Director. Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Hardwick. In addition to the memos that staff have responded to Council on this motion, we're currently working on technical review of growth projections, housing and employment projections, and also targets refresh. It will be subject to council and public consultation.
Okay, not to interrupt because I've got limited time.
Okay, sure.
I'm not looking for reports. I'm looking for data that was supposed to have been delivered by the end of July last year.
Yes.
And it seems to me that we're rushing something through here, but we couldn't rush through getting data that was in raw data format that was promised to be delivered a year ago. So we're continuing to push forward on policies lacking that underlying data in the assumptions on which we are rushing through this report, for example.
Significant data has been provided through the memos, and additional data will be provided, we anticipate, late September as part of the Vancouver plan growth projection and target information. and working sessions with council.
And that's it for your